Welcome to the Agile Localization podcast by Crowden, where we unpack the strategies and solutions that make localization fast, scalable, and efficient. I'm your host, Stefan Huyghe. Good morning from rainy and thundery Texas for the Agile Localization podcast by Crowden. For the past year or so, Anna, I've been introducing my guests from sunny blue skies, but today, for some reason, it's thundery and rainy. Maybe we're adapting for Amsterdam. I would think there's a connection there. We'll let people know in a second. So anyway, good morning and welcome. I'm here with Anna Barcons Folguera, who's joining us from Madrid, Spain. You are the Localization Executive for SafetyCulture, and that's why we're talking to you this morning a little bit. I'm not nearly doing you justice as an esteemed guest, so maybe introduce yourself a little bit better than the crappy job that I just did here in the last minute. Go ahead.
No worries. Happy to jump in. Yeah, I've been working for SafetyCulture these last 4 years as a localization executive. And I've been always in the localization industry. I'm a trained translator and interpreter myself. And I've always been involved with languages. I've been in many different sectors as well, from food export and jumped a bit to entertainment, online marketing, a bit here, a bit there, but always focus on languages. And yeah, it's truly my passion. And I ended up in a really nice company that I feel that we're doing something important there. So happy to continue the legacy there.
Yeah, and there's to my joy this morning, there's a Dutch connection too, because I think SafetyCulture is headquartered in Amsterdam. En je spreekt een beetje Nederlands ook, een klein beetje.
Een beetje. Yes, indeed. And we have an office. One of our offices is there. And yeah, all the team that speaks French, German, and other languages that we offer in our platform are based there. So yeah, we love the country despite the weather that we seem to share today.
Yeah, it's okay, good. Y hablo un poco de español también. Y je parle français aussi. Und ich spreche Deutsch. See, there's a lot of European languages amongst us.
We need to hire you. you.
Crowden might have something to say about that. Anyway,
I think so.
So let's talk a little bit about localization at SafetyCulture. How does localization at your company contribute to the mission of helping teams improve every day?
Yeah, so that's our mission, and I feel that localization helps to do that globally and basically transcending those language and culture barriers, right? Initially, we designed the platform just for English-speaking customers, and as we grew, we added languages to the platform. We grew in demand. We are across many countries. So with localization, we basically empower frontline workers, the end users of our product, basically, to take safer measures and drive a culture of improvement themselves in their businesses. So we basically help bring this mission to life across non-English speaking regions.
And does localization play a role in preventing operational compliance misunderstandings across these global sites?
Yeah, 100%. So, I mean, safety itself, it's a very tricky and precise type of world. So you have to make sure that translations are on point. A poor translation or even a mistranslation can cause risks, and doing so properly definitely helps preventing workplace incidents and improving safety overall.
Yeah, and there's probably different ways of communicating with different types of employees, I would think as well. What does tone mean when your product communicates with factory floor workers versus corporate compliance officers, so to speak? Those are vastly different audiences, no?
Yeah, 100%. And for that, we have very concise guidelines that the company uses for English, and we try to, of course, adapt them for non-English languages. But the difference is already there in the audiences themselves, right? We avoid jargon no matter what the audience is in the end, but we also avoid being too formal unless necessary. So we always try to, for a factory worker, for example, we try to be very direct. So they know what they have to do and wouldn't beat around the bushes, right? Whereas with a compliance officer or a safety officer, precision is very important. A certain level of formality might also be, and we need to be clear as well. So, and even with those type of different audiences, there's an extra label added, which is the language nuance or the cultural nuance there. So as you may know, in Germany, usually it's a way more formal type of language, especially when dealing with this type of
Ordnung muss sein.
context.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So no matter usually the audience, you tend to be always
Mm.
one level more formal. Whereas for other languages like Italian or Spanish, you can play a bit more with that. So we are aware of that, and then the linguists and the vendors that we work with are also aware of that, and we always try to provide as much context and guidelines as we can.
Now, how do you ensure translated safety content doesn't become overly formal or disengaging for maybe mobile users in the field?
Yeah, going back to the guidelines, we always try to prioritize what's simple, and we go always straight to the point. That happens in English, and we bring that also across the translated copy. So we make sure to provide those guidelines to the linguists that we work with, the vendors. We are also very open to feedback that we get when sometimes something needs to be changed because that doesn't work or that's too formal. We completely adapt to that. And we basically also work a lot with product to make sure that we are aligned and that we keep our product then resonant to the audience that we are intending this product for.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about UX. It's a topic that's very much in headlines in the localization space nowadays. What's unique about Localize a mobile first enterprise tool compared to, say, a desktop or a SaaS product?
So I would say that definitely the spacing and wording component that you have to pair at all times for us. So you have to imagine our product is designed for a worker that is surrounded by a lot of noise, that is probably wearing gloves, that is under a lot of time pressure and needs to also interact a lot touching the screen. So we have to create copy that is concise, that is also short so it doesn't break, and that allow them to perform the work as they are supposed to. So this spacing and wording component is always something that we have to be very conscious about.
Yeah, and how do you make sure that the user interface feels intuitive for users with different tech literacies and different, vastly different jobs as well at the same time?
Yeah, yeah. Like I try to think when I'm working, I try to think of people like my dad, who has barely touched a phone, right? And when at SafetyCulture, we also think the same way. We try to design for everyone. But that's why this cross-team collaboration is very important. We work with engineers, we work with writers, we work with our product marketing team. We are all aware of this variety, even within our main audience, and we always try to test, this type of terminology if it works or if it doesn't. We also try to provide feedback or to even ask ourselves: does this training material that I'm now working on, does this work for the end user? Is it too complex? Is it easy to understand the steps that they need to follow when they're using the app? So we always try to ask that for ourselves and make sure that this works everywhere, not just for an English speaking audience.
Yeah, it's interesting the amount of knowledge you seem to have about your users. So I'm going to dig a little bit deeper on that as well, if you allow me. Have you seen any regional differences in how people engage with reminders and notifications, escalations, just all the user interface stuff that we are used to?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's in the end, it's a cultural thing. Going back, for example, to the example before, formality in Germany, right? For maybe a German audience, something that is a direct alert would drive then a faster response. Whereas for countries like Spain, something that is more of a collaborative tone, not that much of an alert that would create chaos and panic, would work best. And that's something that we get those insights from reports that we do annually. So we have one called Feedback from the Field, for example, where we analyze the workplace of businesses and help them understand how could they drive improvement in what they do. And even then, even when it's an English speaking focus type of report, you see differences. within English-speaking audiences. So it's really a cultural thing, and we always try to learn and adapt accordingly.
That's fascinating. Fascinating. That is, we at Crowden, we really like removing some of the communication barriers that agile teams have been dealing with traditionally. How does the localization team collaborate at your company with product design and UX writing? How does that work at SafetyCulture?
We are in the middle of it, basically. So, and that's something that I find really good. We work closely with all of the teams, with product, with marketing, with engineering, and with design. So what we try to do is we embed localization way earlier on the first steps, so that then it's not an afterthought, and you don't have to then keep fixing what then create issues because localization has not been thought about. And for example, one of the main things that we do with all these different teams is when there's a new feature and we have to name it, and the team has a great idea for English, they always consult us if that would work in all the languages that we know of, because it's a very specific environment. So there are very specific terminology, and a word like issues, for example, may not work depending on how you translate it. So they always involve us on those first early steps, and to make sure that we have our say, and then we all work from there. And the same, when something has been done and may not have worked later on, we are part of those feedback loops, and then we bring that back to product.
Yeah, sounds very effective and wonderful. Localization 2.0. You're working in an environment where your audience has such a variety of backgrounds, and I want to touch on that a little bit more. You're dealing with customers that are in construction as well as at hospitals at times, and I want to quiz you a little bit about how you scale across industries. How do feedback loops from industry experts or customers influence the localized content update?
It is critical. So we take them super seriously. It's our source of truth in the end, and it helps us also improve globally, because if something may not have worked, or there's something that may not have been properly understood in one language, that may mean that even the English copy needs reviewing, or that in other languages they have the same experience, and that means that end users won't be getting that exactly right. So it helps us do a global review, and then it improve basically the way our copy is written.
Yeah, and does localization ever help SafetyCulture identify new business opportunities in specific sectors? That's really helpful for long-time survival of the localization unit, I would think, no?
100%. We're like the guinea pigs, I would say, of the company. It's so when we see that there's a strong adoption in certain areas, or when the website is visit and people click on certain languages, and we see adoption there, then those localization metrics signal maybe where we can invest next, or where we would expand certain features, or we would look for partnerships. And that's what, for example, happened for what I was saying before, Germany and France, for example. We saw strong signals for hospitality and manufacturing there, and that's what we decided to invest. That's also the reason why we, for example, added Portuguese, like Brazilian Portuguese, to the platform. We also added Latin American Spanish to the platform. We saw strong signals there, and most likely this region will become one of the ones that we will then look after. So it's definitely a metric that the business bears in mind.
Yeah, and how do you ensure that language consistency doesn't come at the expense of context relevance? That's a linguistic question for the linguist in you.
It's always like a balance, right? Are we just consistent, or we try to also be contextual relevant, or how do we do that? For us, I mean, of course, consistency is very important, but it should not override the relevance of a context. So crowding helps us really much with maintaining consistency. We have amazing terminology bases that we provide to linguists, and they follow them strictly. But at the same time, we always encourage them to just read the context. If this specific work doesn't work here, just don't use it. It's always important to be relevant to the context that you are translating for. And so it's very important that we keep this open dialogue with our vendors. And going back to what I said before, issues, for example, may not have the same level of negative connotation in one language than in another, or even in English. So they should be aware of those nuances and not just copy paste what the terminology entry says.
So we've managed to cover half of the podcast without speaking about AI, and I think we're now
It's
at a point we
time.
can't avoid it anymore. So let's touch upon it a second. Most localizers are very interested right this moment about use cases. We're at that point. What are the limitations that you have found with your AI implementations when it comes to translating context-specific compliance or safety concepts?
Yeah, so there's definitely a barrier there when it comes to those specific contexts. As much as AI can help us accelerate workflows, and we have a lot of features within our product that help even customers to translate, for example, training in a couple of seconds into relevant languages for their frontline workers, so they have an inclusive learning experience, right? But at the same time, we are very aware that context is everything in safety. So we have to get it right. And AI is still not domain sensitive enough sometimes, and because there's a legal charge behind it sometimes, right? So the AI can misinterpret sometimes the tone or the severity of the copy. So we always recommend, for example, our customers, when they use those AI features that we provide, to have always a human in the loop afterwards, to review it, to adapt it, and to have a loop, not trust the AI completely. And internally in the localization team, we always keep a human in the loop ourselves. We will have a proofreader that is an industry-informed language. It's not just a translator. So they're used to work with our terminology, our context, and that can understand when the context has not been understood right.
Yeah. What excites you the most about the next generation localization/AI tools at SafetyCulture? What are you working on?
Well, I mean, in addition to, of course, leveraging AI, which as much as may not be great for context aware context, is of course helping us improve our processes and our product itself. We are very excited about more context aware tools. So the possibility of integrating tools like crowding with everything in the business, not just language related copy, but have like feedback integrated there, or analytics, or something that help us like scale globally. It's something that I'm honestly really excited about, and we are testing on those type of improvements.
Awesome. Let's talk a minute about building a localization culture and how you empower teams to think multilingual out of the gate. How do cross-functional teams, marketing, training, product, engineering contribute to the localization success, and how has that helped build the localization culture at your company?
Yeah. So as I said, we work with everyone in the business. So when we succeed, we do so together, right? It's like a shared uh, success story that we have. On one side, you have marketing that helps us understand, have a bit of this cultural alignment. And then you have the enablement team that also helps understand, provide like language clarity when the context itself, it's very terminology specific, and sometimes that may not come across. Um, as we would like. So we understand that. And then you have then the product teams that also keep us in the loop when it comes to feedback and allow us to also scale globally. So you have all of the teams interacting together, and it's sort of like we fit ourselves. So when one team succeeds, the other does as well. And that's how we work.
You have any tips to build empathy for end users among internal stakeholders that don't necessarily have the end user in mind all the time?
Bring them to customer visits, ship them somewhere else. Like what it really helps us, we always encourage teams that are in English speaking countries to go to visit a customer in a non-English speaking country and see how they use the product, even when they may not understand the language. That's irrelevant. Uh, they are able right there to see what works, how localization has an impact in the way they work, how sometimes the lack of it prevents them from continuing working, and the type of localizations issues that they would face every day. So it's really the best way to build empathy, and then that also helps. That turns into advocacy in the end for what we do.
What kind of training or onboarding helps new team members understand localization's impact?
Yeah, so we sort of have two types of onboarding, right? We have the onboarding for those that will join our team, and there we explain in detail processes, tools, stakeholders. We show them a bit the customer journey that someone in France, Germany, or Latin America would follow, more or less, so they understand what we do, the impact that it has, and even we're open to suggestions if they think that there's something that we can improve. And then there's the type of onboarding for members that may not necessarily be in the localization team, but that they would come eventually across localized material. And for them, anyway, we share an overview of all those materials that we work on, everything that we do, and the impact that it has. So there's also a bit of an alignment there, and they understand what they can ask from us, how we can help each other, basically.
Yeah. And what kind of person thrives that safety culture in the localization team? That's maybe a question for a junior localization person that's starting out in the industry. What are some of the key characteristics that somebody would need to have in order to thrive and be hired on your team?
Well, it has to be somewhere that doesn't get bored easily. It's someone that loves to take on 1,000 different tasks, and that's what good about what we do here at SafetyCulture. You go from working into video tutorials, and you jump into bug tracking, then you're working on collaterals that the sales teams will eventually then use for customers or the website. So you work on a variety of tasks that it's not easy to find. And then this person is great if he's someone curious that also likes to understand and why does it work here, maybe not there. Someone that is not just about, of course, we care about linguistic quality, but we look also for someone that cares about the end user, so the consumer of that copy and what we produce in our team.
Yeah. What advice would you give to companies that want to make localization part of their operational excellence culture? What are some of the success stories that you can share to build a successful team?
Yeah, I would say just don't think of localization as an afterthought. Don't involve localization later on your processes. Just put it at the very beginning. This would help basically be more strategic and don't be just responsive. As I said before, then you will avoid the need to then have to start fixing issues that could have been prevented on the very first place. And basically, I would say that this will also help you then grow globally when you involve localization at the very early stages and in everything you do, actually, in feedback loops, in QA, product design. So as I said, localization has to be in the middle of everything, like almost like a gossip grammar.
That's a great way of putting it. What are some of the key challenges and rewards of building products that truly resonate with users around the world beyond language alone? Would you say?
Yeah, and especially in such a specific context like safety, I'd say that the challenge is the cultural nuance there. So like knowing what resonates where and how to properly deliver to that audience. But once you get that right, then you get immediately the reward there because you build a connection. To me, it's great when we go and we see customers and you see how these localized materials help them and speaks their language in the end. It's not just something that serves their purpose and they forget about it at the end of the day. It really helps them. So the biggest reward would be that the connection that you build in.
By the way, do you have a favorite crowd and functionality that you use all the time in your day to day?
Oh, I mean, more than the functionality, the pre-translation save us so much time. Either with the TM or with the AI, save us so much time. Um, it makes our lives easier. And the machine translation post editing is also great process that we use there. Glossaries, of course, help us maintain consistency. It's a combination of many. I couldn't name just a single.
And your pre-translation process is mostly run by AI or by machine translation?
At the moment, it's a combination of both. It depends on the type of project that we have. There's some projects that, as I mentioned before, more context specific, and then we prefer to have like a TM where we know that we can trust 100% on. There's some others that we can calmly use AI. So it depends on the type of project, and we work with our vendors to then make sure that we select the right pre-translation for each one of them.
Have you started implementing some of the newest Crowdon features with Vector Cloud, maybe where there's more context opportunities?
Not yet, but now that you say that, I may need to investigate that.
So I'll make you an unbridled plug. We have a Crowdon Power Up series that I host as well with Dorota Pavlak, and you'll find that online at the regular channels that Crowdon uses for their podcasts. And you can actually, we have 4 or 5 episodes now of half an hour long each, in which we're teaching people all these newest AI features that Crowdon has come up with, and with great success. So I highly recommend you you go take a look at that. I'm sure there would be some new opportunities for your team to leverage the functionalities there.
100%. Thank you for the tip. I'll definitely have a look at it.
Awesome. Maybe one last question. You've worked in localization across different contexts. What initially drew you to this field, and how has your perspective on the role of localization evolved throughout your career? That's a mouthful, but go ahead.
Yeah, well, as I said before, I worked from software to entertainment to online marketing, a bit of everything. And I was even surprised that I end up into such a safety and health and safety type of environment. But what drew me to this, it's a bit more of a personal story. And so that my dad has been working in the construction sector for over 40 years. He's been involved, unfortunately, to several workplace incidents himself. So when I saw the solution that SafetyCulture was providing, it's something that I wish that people like my dad would have access to, right? And the fact that I am able to help deliver the platform in so many languages, in a language that, for example, my dad could understand, it makes it even better. So in this sense, that's also that has contributed to change the way I thought about localization. At the beginning, I thought a bit more about language service that we can provide. And it is a language service, but with work like what we're doing now here, you see that you go from a language service to more of a strategic enabler that helps make real impact. And that's what I believe that we're doing at SafetyCulture, and maybe that's what actually drew me to the position.
Well, Anna Barcons Folguera, thank you so very much for spending some time with us here this morning and tipping the veil as to how you do your work at SafetyCulture. We will be keeping an eye on your career here from our end, and maybe we'll catch up again with you sometime soon. Thank you for your time, and we wish you a wonderful afternoon in Spain.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Well, folks, that's a wrap on today's episode of the Agile Localization Podcast by Crowdon. We hope you found it as insightful as we did. If you enjoyed today's conversation and want to learn more about how leading companies are managing their multilingual content efficiently, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming episodes. Thank you for tuning in. For more resources on how to streamline your localization process, visit crowdon.com. See you next time.